Hello everybody and welcome to my Week 9 team builder against Tyson Red and the Pretoria Pinsirs. He has a team of Excadrill, Togekiss, Muckalola, Kyurem, Impapom, Magmortar, Metacham, Mega, Rotom Wash, Alakazam, Credilli, Hippowdon with Magmortar and Excadrill as the Z users. And this week I'll be bringing a team of Zygarde, Lopunny, Metagross, Shaman, Jellicent, and Crocodile. So this week was really hard for me to build for, especially because there's a lot of things that I really wanted to bring, but there's no way I could fit them all. A lot of things on my team that I really liked. I really liked Sylveon, but unfortunately I wasn't able to bring it this week. I really like Sylveon because his only fairy resists are Excadrill and Magmortar, and neither of them are defensive Pokemon by any means, and neither of them were ever going to take a Hyper Voice well, especially with any special attack behind it. Muck would probably be his answer to Sylveon. I'm expecting him to bring Muck just specifically to deal with Sylveon. And it can deal with it well, but it does not get reliable recovery, and strong enough Hyper Voices can definitely break it over time. But I just couldn't fit it onto my team. Same thing with Zapdos. I really like Zapdos as a really solid check to Excadrill, but I just was not able to fit it onto my team. I just felt between these two that other Pokemon served a more important role. So what I did end up bringing, first one up is my Zygarde. It's just pretty standard banded. His 1000 arrow switching, or 1000 arrow resist, it doesn't exist. Weak to it, neutral, weak, neutral, neutral, weak, neutral, weak, neutral, neutral, neutral. No resist on his team to 1000 arrows, and even outrage. He's got Excadrill to resist, and Togekiss is an immunity, and the rest are neutrals or super effectives. However, what he does have is he has a Hippo, and Hippo is just like stupidly defensive, or just has stupid amounts of HP and defense, so much so that it can really actually end up taking 1000 arrows pretty well and proceeding to either like toxic me and then stall away with slack offs or something like that. So I'm expecting very defensive Hippo to come to deal with both my Zygarde and my Lopunny, because although it does, typing wise, it does not do anything to stop either of them. Its defense is just so absurdly high that it's able to deal with both of them with its just naturally, because they just can't do enough damage to break it. So I have 1000 arrows and outrage just for stabs. Extreme speed because priority is always nice, especially late game. Toxic is to snipe the Hippo on a switch in. And if I'm able to toxic the Hippo, it makes breaking it a lot easier. And yeah, so landing a toxic on Hippo would be absolutely fantastic. My Zygarde can come in on his Muck a lot and get to fire off 3000 arrows against it. The only problem with my Zygarde is that it does struggle to find opportunities to actually end up attacking. It can come in on an Excadrill so long as Sand's not up. Even if Sand's up, so long as it doesn't have a boost. It can get brought in on an Excadrill on a sack and force it out. It always comes in on Muck. It does have to be worried about knockoff though. I was almost considering running Z move just so I can't get knocked off to make it a more reliable switch into Muck, but decided not to. Impapom, I guess it could. Magmortar possibly. But the main things it'll be coming in on and launching 1000 arrows on and forcing him to switch into are going to be on his Rotom and on his Muck. Those are his primary things. And yeah, hopefully out of that we're able to force him into a bad scenario, and possibly if we can break his Hippo into a scenario where he has to begin sacking just sacking every time Zygarde comes in on one of those two, which is great. Next is my Lopunny, and I have a pretty strange set. I was really debating as to whether to just go with something more standard standard or to bring this set. And ultimately I decided on the set. And this set is specifically designed to set up on and break his hippo. So I'm expecting his hippo to be the switch into both my Zygarde and my Lopunny. I mean, I think the only other possible switch in he could bring for my Lopunny is Rotom Wash. Maybe defensive Togekiss, but like I don't think that's a very good set. But either way, I have good answers to both of them, and really, I think for all three of them, I still work equally as well. It's substitute, encore, return, power up punch, meaning that say his Kyurem's out and it's low on health, or I can just bluff the high jump kick at any point. Say I'm in that scenario, or say that his Medichamp's low and I come in on it. Just put him in a scenario where if he stays in, he's risking losing a Pokemon to Lopunny. So he'll switch into, say, his Rotom or his Hippo. So they'll likely either try and recover their health back immediately after taking the hit, depending on what their health is. Possibly fire off a Toxic back in my Lopunny. Something like that. Maybe, in the case of Rotom, possibly fire off a Will-O-Wisp. So substitute would cover all of those options, and with Encore, if they lock themselves into anything that's not damaging me or phasing me, such as Whirlwind from Hippo, then they're put in a scenario where I can just repeatedly power up punch them and essentially claim a kill. If I'm able to lock either Rotom or Hippo into a move that's not damaging, then my Lopunny will claim a kill, and there's really nothing you can do about it, which is really cool. And if I'm able to break his Hippo like this, that's absolutely fantastic, both for my Lopunny and for my Zygarde, meaning that they're both going to be able to put in a ton of work, after this happens. Also, just for EVs, I'm just fast enough to outrun Alakazam. I was thinking about not doing that because I felt like Alakazam was going to be Sash anyways, because Sash makes a lot of sense to deal with Zygarde and Lopunny to kind of lure him in with Sash counter. Especially in the case of Zygarde, because Zygarde can always set up and win, but if you're Sash counter, then Zygarde's not going to win, or like never going to win against you, and it's like sub or something. Or like in terms of a Dragon Dance set at least. But I decided that definitely a possible scenario where I'm behind a substitute against his Alakazam, and I would definitely like to be able to outrun an Alakazam behind a substitute. So yeah, that's why I decided to outrun Mega Alakazam. So next up is my Metagross. It's max special defense and Assault Vest with Meteor Mash, Bullet Punch, Earthquake, Explosion. This is my primary answer to his special attackers. He's got a few on his team, and typing wise, Metagross does fantastic against all of them. The only problem with Metagross is that it has to check all of them, and if all of them come, which I don't think they will, but it's a possibility, then Metagross is going to have his hands full trying to stop all of them. He has a Togekiss, Kyurem, and Alakazam. And all three of them are pretty powerful in their own right. I do have max special defense and an Assault Vest, so I'm as specially bulky as I could possibly be. I take minimal damage from all of their stabs. Like, all of their stab moves are doing nothing to me. They're bouncing off. However, all of them have a good form of coverage to hit my Metagross, unfortunately. Togekiss can hit me with a Fire Blast. Even max special attack is only doing about like 30-ish. But he could be to +2 if I switch in on him and do like 60 to 70-ish. Meteor Mash into Bullet Punch would kill it after that. But unfortunately, I would take a lot of damage, and that would not be good for me. Meteor Mash into Bullet Punch also kills his Kyurem and his Alakazam. so actually I can kill all of them effectively and kill all of them in what is effectively a no-kill, although it's really not. Um, but and I can always beat any given one of them one-on-one. The problem is that if he brings all of them, or maybe even two of them, that I may end up struggling to beat all of them one-on-one, and they may become too redundant and break my metagross. Especially if he makes any predictions, or like hits me with a move and hits me with a prediction and then switches out and saves it for later, meaning that I wasn't able to deal with one of them and then took damage. Scenarios like that will make my metagross's job much harder, but I'm hoping to avoid all of them. Meteor Mash and Bullet Punch are my main stabs. There's no need for Zen Headbutt this matchup. Meteor Mash hits everything I really want it to, besides Rotom. And Earthquake hits his Muck a little bit harder, his Excadrill, and his Magmortar. The only things that really resist my Meteor Mash. And lastly, I have Explosion for the Rotom, or really anything. It's just a neat move to have, I think. Although I think I might. I don't know if I'd rather have Zen for the Rotom or not. But anyways, yeah, it's mainly just my special wall for this game, and it by no means weak though. 135 attack is good no matter whether it's invested or not. Next up is my Shaman. My Shaman is just my best switch into his Rotom and to his Hippo. Rotom's the kind of Pokemon where if you don't have a grass type, it's going to give you a really hard problem, because it's going to Volt Switch all the time, and you can't really bring in your ground type on a Volt Switch because it's just going to Hydro Pump it. Actually, Zygarde isn't weak to Hydro Pump, so I guess Zygarde could possibly, and in a pinch I may use it to do that, especially because getting Zygarde in anytime this game is great. But Shaman is always a safe switch into his Rotom, and same thing with his Hippo. It's really nice to have something that always switches into them. It has Natural Cure, so if Hippo wants to throw out a Toxic at my Zygarde or my Lopunny, and especially my Zygarde, because my Lopunny will probably be subbing on that Toxic, or hopefully anyways. My Shaman doesn't care about it because of Natural Cure, and my Shaman is actually pretty difficult for him to deal with. With my coverage, it ends up being that Togekiss is really his best thing to take on my Shaman, and if I can get Spidef drops, then it becomes much more difficult for him to do this with my Seed Flare, because Seed Flare does have the wonderful 40% chance to lower Spidef by 2. His likely switch-ins into this are Kyurem, Togekiss, and Muck. Because everything else really isn't taking the Seed Flare well. Togekiss I don't have any coverage for, but I have Dazzling Gleam and Earth Power for Kyurem and Muck respectively. If I'm able to get the Spidef drop on Kyurem, the Dazzle is always killing. Even without the Spidef drop, if I have Rocks, it's going to die, and I'm faster than it, so long as it's not Scarf, my Kyurem will no longer effectively be a switch-in, especially after Rocks. Muck, if it gets a Spidef drop, almost always dies to Earth Power. Without the Spidef drop, it would depend on the set if it dies to Earth Power or not. It would probably need to be. I can pull it up. I was looking at it, Muckalola. Let's just go blank, because Trappers said it's kind of weird. That's why I didn't know exactly what it was. But if he's max HP, and probably max special defense, which would be a very realistic set to come for Sylveon, probably careful, then that's 18, so approximately 20 plus yeah, I mean, even then it would need to be Assault Vest to ever take the take Seed Flare into Earth Power, which is really cool, or assuming Seed Flare into Earth Power if I get the Spidef drop. So Seed Flare, I mean, it's heavily RNG reliant, but it's really good for breaking his team. And if I'm able to get the drops, that'll be huge and allow me to really start doing some critical damage to it. Synthesis is here just so I can get some health back, because Life Orb and Sand will probably start wearing me down a bit. And I can always heal against Rotom and Hippo because they don't have any moves that hit me hard. Next up is my Jellicent. My Jellicent is fully physically defensive, and it's my main check for his Medicham. It also deals with his Ambipom pretty well, and it can be an emergency check to drill. And even, surprisingly, it can even deal with Muck if it needs to. If it burns Muck, then Muck can't really do enough damage to threaten it. And it can't 2-hit KO it without getting wisped in the first place, and then it can just get taunted. So if it's the berry set, you can't recover its berry. So Jellicent will always beat his Muck one-on-one, which is pretty cool. Against his Medicham, Zen Headbutt does 2-hit kill this, unfortunately, but he would need to make the prediction on my Jellicent coming in and also not have it get disabled. Jellicent's really nice to have him use as like to force him to high jump kick into it and damage himself. He seems to, from watching previous games, he runs high jump kick pretty much every week and uses it fairly recklessly, in my opinion. He doesn't really seem to have any regard for people using Protect to stop it, which, I mean, I usually don't run high jump kick in my Lopunny because A, I really don't want to miss on the 10% chance, or lose on the 10% chance to miss, and B, because if someone runs Protect on their answer, or Protect on anything that I could be high jump kicking, then I'm in a scenario where I get put in a scenario where I lose 50% of my health in a scenario I thought I was advantageous in. But anyways, back to Jellicent. So long as he doesn't make the prediction, I can always threaten him with a Wisp, and he's forced out. He can't facade me because I'm a ghost type. So he's either forced out or I get to neuter his Medicham, which is kind of pretty cool. And Jellicent's pretty difficult for his team to deal with. I mean, nothing on his team really effectively kills it. Rotom really doesn't do that much, and it gives me, I have a really safe switch in my Shaman. Muckalola could come in, but A, this doesn't beat Jellicent one-on-one, although I'd probably not let it get knocked off for poison, because that would be bad. I can probably go into my Crocodile, as you'll see later. But yeah, Curse Body is nice to have the possibility of disabling Zen Headbutt. I'm really not going to be in a scenario where I'll need Water Absorb. The only possible scenario I'd need that in is like a Hydro from Rotom, and even then I'm not taking anything from that. I guess I could heal, but I really don't even see a reason for him to ever click that. It's maybe against my Crook. But yeah. It does a decent job. This does a decent job dealing with his Medicham. And if it can land the Wisp on it, would be really great. And synergistically, these two work to stop his Medicham together. They're both max defense. But the only move that he can use that will effectively deal with Jellicent is Zen Headbutt, which my Crocodile is immune to. And the only move that he can use that really effectively deals with my Crocodile is High Jump Kick, which Jellicent is immune to and causes him to take recoil from. So I have my Crocodile here for as Protect on it to force Medicham to take recoil when it tries to kill it with a High Jump Kick. But this is my primary answer to his Excadrill, so I need to be very careful not to let take damage, and so that I can prevent a late game Excadrill sweep. Intimidate is really nice this game to deal with his Medicham and and his deal with his Metacham and his Excadrill well. And it's my primary switch into his Muck. It deals so well with Muck that the damage it takes from it is negligible in stopping his Excadrill late game. The biggest problem is that most sets of Excadrill, my Crocodile can deal with pretty fine. I think Life Orb plus 2 Earthquake after Intimidate is only doing like 75, which is fine, and none of Muck's attacks do even 75 to me after an or even 25 after an Intimidate. Although if he does get a Poison Touch on me, that would really suck. But Earthquake always kills Excadrill without any investment, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and max defense plus Intimidate allows me, in like okay defensive stats, allow me to take on his Excadrill. Zapdos took it on even more reliably, especially with a Charty Berry, but my Crocodile can always beat it as long as it's not Ground EMZ, which I really don't think makes sense to bring Ground EMZ against me, because like, what is Ground EMZ hit? Like possibly Metagross, but I think you have to be more worried about Zapdos, and I think Rock EMZ makes a lot more sense to deal with Zapdos. That's why originally I brought Charty Berry Zapdos, but which deals with it even more reliably. But so long as he's not Ground EMZ, I can always deal with it. And if I do have to make sure I keep a decent amount of health, mainly above 75%, and I should be able to deal with him. And this is also what I really like. The reason I really brought Crook over his Zapdos my Zapdos was Rocks. I really wanted Rocks against his team because Kyurem's kind of annoying for my team to deal with, and I wanted it taking chip. Same thing with Togekiss. Both of them take a lot of chip from that, and I really wanted to pressure them. I wanted Rotom and Mug also taking that significant chip. So yeah, I really wanted to get Rocks on my team, and having them on my Crook was the best way to do it. And Crook can always get them up against his Muck, which I really liked. So yeah, that's a team, and I hope it works out. So yeah, I feel weird about this team because it feels incomplete. I did a lot of thinking about it and thought about what I wanted from each thing, and I still feel like something's missing to some extent, but I've like exhausted every possible option. I mean, I feel like I'm a hair or two weak to drill, but also something to look at is that nothing on my team really lets drill effectively set up. Extreme speed will always do 22 drill, so or around 20. So I can, so long as any move does 80 to him, then drill really can't set up on that. Lopunny actually doesn't have any good moves to do it, so if anything, Lopunny's a bit of setup under sand, or something he could set up with under sand. It can only do like 50 to 60 with a power up punch, but Metagross's Earthquake does 80-ish. Shaman's Earth Power is like 80 to 100 ish. Same with Seed Flare. I think they do around the same damage. Jellicent's got Will-O-Wisp to keep it from, and Crook always kills with Earthquake. So he really does struggle to set up with his Excadrill against my team, which I do use as a sort of justification for bringing Crook over Zapdos, because I did want something really safe to make sure Excadrill never won, and Charty Zapdos was that really safe option. But I also really wanted Rocks, and Crocodile provides that. And I also really wanted a safe switch into Muck, because I felt that my Shaman would be inviting it in, and I didn't like, at this point, like, what do I bring in on Muck? Like possibly a Zygarde? I don't want my win conditions getting damaged. I mean, I also don't want my checks to his win conditions getting damaged either, but yeah, I also do have the advantage of being able to throw up rocks and muck. So yeah. So yeah, like I said, I feel like I've exhausted everything. I still really wish I could have brought Sylvie on, but I don't see. I mean, this is. I guess I suppose I'm content with the team, but I don't know. I just feel like no matter what I did, I was going to feel wrong about the team and that I couldn't fit everything I wanted onto it. But hopefully this one is able to cut it.